"Mother, can you clean this mess? And while you're at it, I need you to wash these dishes before dinner." I stood there in the kitchen doorway, holding a laundry basket against my tired hip, watching my daughter-in-law wave her manicured hand dismissively at me. Her voice wasn't cruel, exactly, just indifferent, like I was hired help rather than the woman who owned the very walls around us. When I gave my son everything, my time, my health, my home, I never thought he'd marry someone who'd make me feel like a stranger in my own house. But let me start from the beginning. When things were different, when this house was filled with laughter instead of silent tears. My husband, God rest his soul, and I built this home with our own hands. Well, not literally, we weren't construction workers, but every brick, every beam, every coat of paint was purchased with money we earned through sweat and sacrifice. He worked double shifts at the factory while I took in sewing and watched neighbors' children during the day. We saved every spare penny for 15 years before we could afford to break ground. I still remember the day we moved in. The walls smelled of fresh paint, and sunlight streamed through the windows. We'd carefully chosen the ones that faced east so I could watch the sunrise while having my morning tea. My husband lifted me over the threshold, laughing, saying, "Now you're a proper lady with a proper home, my darling." Our son was born a year later in the bedroom upstairs, the same room where my husband would pass away 23 years after that, his hand in mine, whispering, "Take care of our boy." And I did. Oh, how I did that. After my husband died, my son became my entire world. He was 19 then, studying engineering at the university. I worked 3 jobs to keep him in school, teaching cooking classes at the community center, alterations at the dry cleaners, and weekend shifts at a bakery. My hands were always busy, but my heart was always full. He was my pride, my purpose. The reason I survived widowhood when so many nights I wanted to simply disappear into my grief. He graduated with honors, got a good job at an architectural firm in the city. I watched him grow into a fine young man, and every sacrifice felt worth it when I saw him smile. I never expected that one day he would watch silently as someone made me feel worthless in the home I'd given everything to build. "Mom, I want you to meet someone special." My son's eyes sparkled with excitement when he brought her home for the first time. Her name was Priya, and she was beautiful, tall, with glossy hair that fell in perfect waves down her back, wearing a designer salwar kameez that probably cost more than I spent on clothes in a year. She worked in marketing at a multinational company, drove her own car, and spoke with the confident tone of someone who'd never doubted her place in the world. "It's so nice to meet you, Auntie," she said, touching my feet in respect. "Rahul talks about you all the time." I liked her. How could I not? She made my son happy, and her smile seemed genuine enough. When they announced their engagement 3 months later, I cried tears of joy. I spent my savings on the wedding, making sure it was beautiful enough for a girl of her status. I wanted her family to know that even though I was a widow living alone, I could still give my son a proper celebration. The first few months after they moved in were pleasant. I'd insisted they stay with me rather than rent an apartment. Why waste money when we had 3 bedrooms? Priya was polite during those early days. She'd help with dinner sometimes, laugh at my stories about Rahul's childhood, and even complimented my cooking. But slowly, like the changing of seasons, things began to shift. It started with small comments. "Auntie, do you really need to use so much oil in everything? Rahul needs to watch his cholesterol. The house smells too much like spices. It gets into my work clothes. Could you maybe not watch TV in the evening? Rahul and I need some quiet time together." I adjusted. I always adjusted. I used less oil. I opened windows when cooking. I stayed in my room during evenings, reading old novels by lamplight while listening to their laughter downstairs. Then came the bigger changes. "Mom, Priya thinks we should redecorate the living room. The furniture is a bit dated." The furniture that my husband and I had saved for months to buy, the sofa where we'd cuddled our infant son, the coffee table where Rahul had done his homework while I helped him with math problems. "It's still perfectly good," I said softly. "I know, Mom, but it's been almost 30 years. Maybe it's time for something fresh." I saw Priya standing behind him, her arms crossed, her expression neutral but her eyes determined. "Of course," I heard myself say, "whatever makes you both happy." Within a week, strange men were hauling out my memories and replacing them with sleek, modern pieces that looked beautiful but felt cold. I wasn't consulted on colors or styles. When I came home from the market one day, My husband's favorite armchair, the one I'd sit in sometimes just to feel close to him, was gone. We donated it, Priya said breezily when I asked. It was taking up so much space, and honestly, it was falling apart. It wasn't falling apart. I'd had it reupholstered just 2 years ago, but I said nothing. I smiled and nodded and swallowed the lump in my throat. The real shift came with the issue of privacy. One evening, about 6 months after the wedding, Priya called a family meeting at the dinner table. She'd made charts, actual printed charts about household management. Auntie, Rahul and I have been discussing our space and boundaries, she began, her tone pleasant but firm, like a manager addressing an employee. We think it would be better for everyone if we had some clearer divisions in the house. She slid a paper across to me. It outlined zones. The master bedroom was their private area, which was actually my old bedroom, the one I'd shared with my husband, though I'd moved to the smaller room after they married. The living room would be shared space with priority to the couple during evenings. The kitchen would have a schedule for my own kitchen. This way, we all have our own time and space, Priya continued. I hope you understand it's not personal. Rahul and I are newlyweds, and we need time to build our marriage. I looked at my son. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Whatever you think is best, I whispered. From then on, the house began to feel less like a home and more like a hotel where I was an unwanted long-term guest. Priya started complaining about everything I did. My cooking was too traditional. My morning prayers were too loud. I walked too heavily on the stairs. I watched TV at too high a volume, even though my hearing wasn't what it used to be. I laughed too loudly on the phone with my old friends. Slowly, I began to shrink myself. I tiptoed through my own home. I whispered instead of spoke. I stayed in my room more and more, emerging only to cook or clean. And my son, he became a stranger. He stopped sharing his day with me. He stopped seeking my advice. When I tried to talk to him, he'd say, "Not now, Mom, I'm tired," or "Can we discuss this later?" Later never came. I watched him slip away from me, pulled by the gravity of his wife's expectations. He was torn. I could see it in his guilty glances, in the way he'd start to say something, then stop himself, in how he'd leave the room when Priya criticized me. But he never stood up for me. Not once. The woman who'd given him everything, her youth, her strength, her entire world, was losing him to someone who'd known him for less than a year. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It was gradual, insidious, like water slowly eroding stone. What began as suggestions became demands. What started as sharing the house became Priya's complete takeover. One Saturday morning, I woke to the sound of furniture being moved. I came downstairs to find Priya directing to workers as they rearranged the entire ground floor. "What's happening?" I asked, confused. "Oh, Auntie, you're up." She didn't stop pointing at where she wanted the bookshelf moved. "I'm redesigning. This layout is so inefficient. The flow is all wrong." "But shouldn't we discuss?" "I already discussed it with Rahul. He agrees completely. Don't worry, it'll look much better." By the end of the day, I barely recognized my own home. The family photos I'd hung over the years were taken down and replaced with abstract art. The little corner where I'd kept my prayer altar was absorbed into a reading nook. Even the dining table, the one my husband had commissioned from a local carpenter as an anniversary gift, was replaced with a modern glass and chrome monstrosity. "Isn't it gorgeous?" Priya beamed, taking selfies with the new decor. "So much more sophisticated." I felt like I was living in a stranger's house. But the physical changes were nothing compared to what came next. One evening, Priya called me into the living room, where she sat with a laptop and a stack of papers. "Aunt, we need to talk about finances." My stomach tightened. "Finances?" "Yes, now that Rahul and I are planning for our future children, investments, maybe a car upgrade, we need to be smart about household expenses." She slid a paper toward me. "I've created a budget." I looked down at the spreadsheet. Every expense was itemized: utilities, groceries, maintenance, property tax. "I understand, Beta, but what does this have to do with we think it's fair if expenses are split proportionally? You live here too, so you should contribute to the household costs." The words hit me like a slap. Contribute. Beta, this is my house. I paid for this house. "Yes, but you don't work anymore, Auntie. Rahul pays for everything: the electricity, the water, the food. It's only fair that you contribute your share." Her voice remained sweet, but her eyes were steel. "I calculated that your pension should cover about 30% of the household expenses. That seems reasonable, doesn't it?" "Where is Rahul?" I managed to ask. He's upstairs. We already discussed this. He agrees. Of course he did. He agreed with everything she said now. I started paying them rent to live in my own home. The home I'd nearly killed myself to build. But even that wasn't enough for Priya. She took over the kitchen next, deciding what got cooked and when. She changed the grocery supplier to some organic delivery service that cost 3 times as much. She rearranged all my cabinets and threw out half my spices because they were expired. They weren't. I knew exactly when I'd bought each one. The kitchen works more efficiently this way, she'd say when I couldn't find something I needed. Meal times became humiliating rituals. Priya and Rahul would sit down first, serving themselves from the dishes I'd spent hours preparing. I would wait in the kitchen, cleaning up, until they called me to join them, if they called me at all. Often, I'd eat alone afterward, reheating what little was left. One evening, they hosted a dinner party for Rahul's colleagues and their wives. I'd spent the entire day cooking all my best dishes, the ones that used to make my son's eyes light up. The guests praised every bite, asking who'd prepared such wonderful food. Oh, this. Priya laughed, her hand on Rahul's shoulder. It's all Rahul's family recipes. I've been learning from his mother. She just likes to stay busy. No cleaning and cooking keeps her happy. It gives her purpose. She said it so sweetly, with such a kind smile, that the guests nodded approvingly. They had no idea I'd been standing in the kitchen for 6 hours while she'd gotten a manicure. They didn't know that I'd served them, refilled their glasses, and cleaned up after them like hired help while she played hostess in my home. My son sat there, smiling at his colleagues, saying nothing. I excused myself before dessert was served, claiming a headache. No one noticed when I left the room. In my bedroom, my small corner bedroom in the house I'd built, I sat on the edge of the bed and wept silently into my hands. Things got worse. Priya began speaking to me the way one speaks to a servant, not cruelly. She was too clever for that, but with a dismissive authority that made her position clear. Mother, can you clean this up? I'm expecting guests. Mother, the bathroom needs scrubbing. Mother, can you handle the laundry today? I have a busy week. Never would you mind, or could you please? Just commands delivered with a smile, as if my only purpose was to make her life easier. I did it all. What choice did I have? This was my son's wife, my son's home. Even though it was legally mean effect, everyone seemed to have forgotten. I didn't want to cause conflict. I didn't want to be the difficult mother, and I'd heard too many stories of marriages destroyed by interfering mothers, so I bit my tongue and scrubbed floors. I held back tears and folded their clothes. I swallowed my dignity and served them like the maid they'd turned me into. But the breaking point was coming. I just didn't know it yet. The day everything shattered started like any other day, which is to say, it started with me feeling invisible in my own home. I woke early, as I always did, and made tea. I'd learned to move quietly in the mornings, like a ghost. So as not to disturb Priya and Rahul, I took my tea to the small balcony off my bedroom, watching the sun rise over the neighborhood my husband and I had chosen to build our life in. I used to love mornings. Now they just reminded me that I'd have to face another day of feeling like I didn't belong. After my tea, I went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. But when I opened the cabinet where I kept my special copper pot, the one my mother had given me when I got married, the one I'd used every day for 40 years, it was gone. I searched everywhere, every cabinet, every shelf, even the storage room. I called out, my voice trembling, "Have you seen my copper pot?" She emerged from the bedroom in her silk robe, looking annoyed at being woken up. The old one with the dent. I threw it out. My breath caught. What? I threw it out, Auntie. It was ancient and battered, and honestly, copper is so hard to maintain. I bought new stainless steel pots, much more hygienic. She yawned. There in the bottom cabinet. But that was my mother's pot. It was falling apart. You should be thanking me for upgrading the kitchen. She turned to go back to her room. Oh, and when you make breakfast, can you make it lighter? Maybe just fruit and yogurt. Rahul and I are trying to eat cleaner. She disappeared into the bedroom, leaving me standing in the kitchen, shaking my mother's pot, the pot that had fed my family for 4 decades, the pot I'd used to make my husband's favorite doll on our anniversary every year, the pot I'd stirred while pregnant with Rahul, while nursing him as an infant, while cooking his favorite meals through his entire childhood. Gone, thrown out like garbage. Something broke inside me in that moment, not loudly or dramatically, just a quiet crack, like ice giving way. but I said nothing. I made the fruit and yogurt. I served them. I cleaned up after them. I moved through the day like an automaton. That evening, Priya made an announcement at dinner. So, Rahul and I have decided that we need to think about our future, she said, her hand on my son's. We want to start a family soon, and we'll need more space. More space? I asked. But we have 3 bedrooms. Yes, but we'll need a nursery, and eventually a playroom. Plus, I'm thinking of setting up a home office. She smiled, that sweet smile that never reached her eyes. We were thinking that maybe you could, well, perhaps it's time for you to consider moving to a senior community or something. There's a lovely one across town, much more suitable for someone your age, with activities and medical care, and you want me to leave. The words came out as a whisper. Not live, Priya said quickly. Just transition to a more appropriate living situation. This house is really too much for you to manage anyway at your age, and Rahul and I need space to build our own family. I looked at my son. Finally, he met my eyes. Mom, he said, and his voice was apologetic but firm. It's not about kicking you out. It's about what's best for everyone. Priya's right, this house is big, and maintaining it is a lot. Those senior communities are really nice. You'd have people your own age around, activities. This is my house. My voice was stronger now. Your father and I built this house. Every rupee that went into these walls came from our work. I know, Mom, but nothing. Rahul, this is my home. I will not be pushed out of my home. Priya's expression hardened. We're not pushing you out, Auntie. We're trying to help you see that it's time for a change. You're getting older, and I'm 62 years old, not 90. I don't need to be warehoused in a senior home. That's not what we meant. Yes, it is. I stood up, my legs trembling but my voice clear. You want me gone. You've wanted me gone since the day you moved into my house. Well, you've made your feelings clear, both of you. I walked out of the dining room and went upstairs. Behind me, I heard them murmuring, probably calling me dramatic, emotional, unreasonable. In my room, I sat on the bed and looked around at the small space I'd been relegated to. The bedroom that used to be a guest room, decorated with whatever furniture Priya hadn't thrown out or donated. My entire life reduced to 12 feet by 12 feet. The next morning, I woke to find my room had been entered while I slept. Several boxes of my belongings, old clothes, photograph albums, my husband's watch collection, letters from my mother had been moved to the hallway. Spring cleaning, Priya announced cheerfully when I found her in the kitchen. That room was so cluttered, Auntie. I thought I'd help you organize. Most of that stuff is just junk anyway. There's a charity truck coming tomorrow. We can donate it all. My hands clenched into fists. Those are my belongings. Old clothes and dusty boxes. You mean, when was the last time you even looked at that stuff? It's just taking up space. It's my space. Actually, Priya said, her voice going cold for the first time, dropping all pretense of sweetness. It's Rahul's house now. You might have paid for it originally, but he's the one maintaining it, paying all the bills. So technically, it's his space, and we're just trying to make it more livable for our future family. Rahul. I called out, Rahul. He appeared at the kitchen door, looking uncomfortable. What's wrong, Mom? Tell your wife that she can't throw out my belongings. He glanced at Priya, then at me. Mom, she's just trying to help. Tell her, Mom, please don't make this difficult. We're all trying to live together here. No, you're trying to erase me. There's a difference. He sighed, the sigh of someone dealing with an unreasonable child. We'll talk about this later. I'm late for work, Hila. Priya smirked and turned back to her coffee. That evening, when I went to my room, I found that my prayer altar, the small table where I kept photos of my parents and husband, along with my religious items, had been dismantled. Everything was packed in a box in the closet. It was cluttering the room, Priya said when I confronted her. And honestly, Auntie, all those photos of dead people were depressing. This is a home for the living. Something in me snapped. Not broke, snapped, like a chain that had been pulled too tight for too long. I went to my closet and pulled out my old suitcase. I began packing. What are you doing? Priya asked from the doorway, her tone mocking, finally taking our advice. I didn't answer. I packed my clothes, my mother's jewelry that I'd hidden away, my important documents, my husband's watch collection, and the photo albums Priya had deemed junk. Everything that mattered fit into 2 bags. Mom, Rahul's voice came from behind Priya. What's going on? I turned to face him. My son, the child I'd carried in my body, raised with my hands, loved with my whole heart. I'm leaving, I said calmly. What? Mom, Don't be dramatic, dramatic. I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. Beta, I've watched you let your wife treat me like a servant in my own home. I've been ordered around, dismissed, insulted, and told I'm a burden. My belongings have been thrown out. My rooms have been invaded. I've been asked to pay rent to live in the house I built, and now I'm being told to leave entirely. I zipped up the suitcase, so I'm leaving. You don't have to push me out. I'll go on my own. Mom, please, you're overreacting. We never said you had to leave tonight, but I do have to leave, don't I? Maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, you want me gone. You've made that clear, so I'm making it easy for you. Where will you go? His voice finally held some concern. That's no longer your problem, is it? You have your wife and your future family to worry about. I'll figure something out. I've survived worse than this. I picked up my bags and walked past them, down the stairs, through the living room that no longer felt like mine, and to the front door. It was raining outside. Of course it was. The universe has a sense of drama. Mom, wait, Rahul called from the top of the stairs. I paused at the door and looked back at him one last time. When your father died, you asked me if I'd be okay. I said yes, because you were all I had left. I built my entire life around you. My voice cracked, but I didn't cry. I was done crying. But you're not my little boy anymore. You're a man who stands by while his wife disrespects his mother. You're a stranger who lives in my house and makes me feel like I don't belong. I opened the door. I hope she makes you happy. Beta, I really do, because I gave up my happiness for yours, and it would be a shame if it was all for nothing. I walked out into the rain, pulling my suitcase behind me, and I didn't look back. Behind me, I heard Priya say, "Let her go. She's just being emotional. She'll be back by morning." But I wouldn't be. I was done being invisible in my own life. The rain soaked through my shawl as I walked down the street, away from the house, where I'd spent the best and worst years of my life, with no idea where I was going. But for the first time in years, I felt something I'd almost forgotten: freedom. The first night was the hardest. I walked for 20 minutes in the rain, before my old friend Mira saw me from her window and rushed out to pull me inside. "Kamala, what on earth you're soaked through? What happened?" I stood in her entryway, dripping water onto her floor, and finally cried. Great, heaving sobs that I'd been holding back for years. All the humiliation, all the hurt, all the loss poured out of me while Mira held me, saying nothing, just letting me break apart in her arms. When I could finally speak, I told her everything, every detail of the past 2 years. She listened, her face growing harder with each sentence. "That's it," she said when I finished. "You're staying here until you figure things out. I won't hear any arguments. Mira, I can't impose. Kamala, you helped me when Rajesh died. You were there every single day for 3 months. You think I don't remember? You think I don't owe you?" She squeezed my hand. "Besides, this house is too big for just me since my son moved to Mumbai. You'll be doing me a favor." So I stayed. Mira had a spare room much smaller than the bedroom I'd left behind, but it was mine, truly mine. No one would enter without permission. No one would throw out my belongings or mock my memories. That first morning, I woke up to silence. No demands, no dismissive comments, just the sound of birds outside the window and Mira humming in the kitchen. I cried again, but this time from relief. My phone rang constantly for the first 3 days. Rahul calling, leaving messages that progressed from "Angry Mom, this is ridiculous. Come home," to "Worried Mom, please just let me know you're safe," to "Guilty Mom, I'm sorry. Can we talk?" I didn't answer. I wasn't ready. Priya called once. "Auntie, this is very immature. We need to discuss this like adults." I hung up. After a week, I finally sent Rahul a text. "I'm safe. I'm staying with a friend. I need time." He responded immediately, but I muted the conversation. Mira was patient with me. She let me grieve, let me process, let me sit in silence when I needed to. But after 2 weeks, she sat me down with tea and spoke with the firm kindness only old friends can manage. "So what's your plan?" "My plan? You can stay here as long as you need. That's not what I'm asking. But Kamala, you're 62, not dead. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? Sit around feeling sorry for yourself?" The words stung, but she was right. "I have my pension," I said slowly. "It's not much, but it's not enough to be independent. I know, I've been there." Mira leaned forward. "You need purpose. You need income. You need to rebuild. I'm too old to start over." "Nonsense. My grandmother started a tailoring business at 70. You're a baby compared to her." She tapped her finger on the table. You know what you're good at. Cooking, the best cook I know. Remember when you used to cater small functions before Rahul's wedding? I had done that years ago. Small birthday parties, prayer gatherings, nothing major. I'd enjoyed it. That was a long time ago, I said. Do people stop liking good food? Mira stood up decisively. Tomorrow, we're going to the market. We're going to make a plan. Mira, no arguments. You left that house to find yourself. Remember? Well, time to start looking. And just like that, I began again. We started small. Mira had a kitty party coming up, a monthly gathering of neighborhood ladies. She asked me to prepare some snacks. I spent 2 days planning the menu, shopping for ingredients, and cooking. I made all my signature dishes: samosas with 3 different fillings, matta paneer that melted in your mouth, coconut ladoos that my mother had taught me to make 50 years ago. The ladies devoured everything. Mira, where did you order this from? One of them asked. I didn't order it. Kamala made everything. Kamala, you mean you cooked this? A woman named Leela looked at me with new interest. This is restaurant quality. Do you do catering? I used to, a little bit. Well, you should start again. My daughter's engagement party is next month, and I've been looking for a good caterer. Most of them are either too expensive or the food is mediocre. If you're interested, she's interested, Mira said firmly, before I could doubt myself. And just like that, I had my first real client. I threw myself into planning that engagement party. I spent hours perfecting each dish, testing recipes, adjusting seasonings. The morning of the event, I was up at 4 a.m., cooking. Mira helped me pack and transport everything to the venue. The party was a success. People kept asking who'd made the food. Layla gave me my payment, more money than I'd seen in months, and pressed a bonus into my hands. You made my daughter's day special. Thank you. But more than the money, it was the pride I felt. The sense of accomplishment. I had created something valuable with my own hands, my own skills, my own worth. Word spread quickly. Suddenly, I had 3 more bookings. Then 5. Then I was getting calls weekly. After 2 months, Mira suggested I make it official. You need a name, a business name, something people can remember. We brainstormed over tea one evening. Nothing felt right until Mira said, "What about Kamala's Kitchen?" I shook my head. Too plain. Okay, what about Dadi's Kitchen? She grinned. You're going to be a grandmother someday. Might as well claim the title now. And everyone loves Dadi's cooking. I laughed. It was the first real laugh I'd had in months. Dadi's Kitchen. I like it. We registered the name. Mira's nephew, who worked in marketing, designed a simple logo for Freya grandmother's smiling face framed by a traditional stove. He helped me set up a WhatsApp business account and a basic Instagram page. Instagram, I protested. I'm 60. I don't know how to use Instagram. You're going to learn, Mira's nephew, Arjun, said patiently. He taught me how to take photos of my food, how to post them, how to respond to comments. It felt silly at first taking pictures of my dishes from different angles, but Arjun insisted. Presentation matters, Dadi, he said. He'd started calling me that too. People eat with their eyes first. To my shock, the Instagram page grew. People shared my posts. Food bloggers in the city started featuring my dishes. A local newspaper did a small article about senior entrepreneur Kamala Sharma, who started a successful catering business at 62. 6 months after leaving my house, I had enough regular clients to rent a small commercial kitchen space. Nothing fancy, just a clean, licensed facility where I could cook in larger quantities. I hired 2 helpers, both young women from the neighborhood who needed work. You're a real businesswoman now, Mira said proudly. But it wasn't just about the business. It was about reclaiming myself. For years, I'd defined myself through others as a wife, as a mother, as a homemaker. My entire identity had been wrapped up in taking care of people who, in the end, didn't value me. Now, I was Kamala again. Not someone's mother or someone's burden. Just Kamala, who made incredible food and built something from nothing. I woke up each morning with purpose. I went to bed each night tired but satisfied. I laughed more. I smiled more. I made new friends through my business clients, who became regulars, then confidants. One day, I ran into an old neighbor at the market. She looked at me in surprise. Kamala, I almost didn't recognize you. You look ... different. Different how? I don't know. Younger, happier. You're glowing. I caught my reflection in a shop window as I walked home. She was right. I did look different. I stood straighter. My eyes were brighter. I looked like someone who knew her worth. That night, I finally listened to all of Rahul's voicemails. There were dozens of them, spanning months. The tone had shifted over time from demanding to worried to regretful to desperate. The most recent one, from just 2 days ago, said, "Mom, please, I know I messed up. I know I failed you. But please, let me see you. Let me apologize properly, please." I saved the message, but didn't call back. Not yet. I wasn't punishing him. I was just not ready. I was still finding myself, still building my new life. I needed to be strong enough to face him without falling apart or giving in to the old patterns, but something had shifted in me. The anger had faded, replaced by something clearer and calmer, understanding of my own worth and boundaries. I had lost everything: my home, my son's respect, my sense of belonging, but in losing it all, I'd found something I'd never had before: independence. And no one could take that away from me. 9 months after I walked out of my house in the rain, I received an unexpected call. It was from Mrs. Kapoor, the society president of my old neighborhood. She was organizing a charity function and had heard about my catering business through the grapevine. "Kamala, darling, I need someone who can handle an event for 200 people. Traditional food, high quality, elegant presentation. I've heard wonderful things about your work. Are you available?" 200 people. It would be my biggest event yet, and it was in my old neighborhood, which meant people who knew me, people who'd seen me as just someone's mother, would see what I'd become. "Yes, Mrs. Kapoor, I'm available." We discussed the menu, the budget, the logistics. When she mentioned the amount she was willing to pay, I nearly dropped the phone. It was more than I'd made in 3 months at my old jobs combined. "The event is at the community hall," she continued. "You know, the one on the corner of your old street, my old street, where my house still stood, where my son still lived with his wife." "I'll be there," I said firmly. I threw myself into preparation for the event with an intensity that surprised even me. This wasn't just about the foodie, it was about showing up as the woman I'd become, not the shadow I'd been. The day of the event, I arrived early with my team. We set up our stations, arranged the serving tables, and began the final preparations. I wore a beautiful deep purple sari that Mira had helped me choose, with my mother's gold earrings. My hair was styled neatly. I looked professional, dignified, successful. I looked like someone who mattered. Guests started arriving around 6 p.m. Many were people I knew, neighbors from my years in that community. Their reactions when they saw me ranged from surprise to delight. "Kamala, is this your business? How wonderful. I heard you'd started something, but I had no idea it was this professional. The food smells absolutely divine." I smiled, greeted them graciously, made small talk. I was in my element, confident and poised, and then, at 7 p.m., I saw them. Rahul and Priya walked in together. They hadn't seen me yet. They were near the entrance, Priya scanning the room with her usual critical eye. She'd lost weight, I noticed. She looked tired, strained. Her designer clothes hung slightly loose on her frame. Rahul looked worse. There were dark circles under his eyes. His face was drawn, and he seemed to have aged 5 years in 9 months. Mrs. Kapoor rushed over to them. "Rahul? Priya, so glad you could make it. Have you tried the food yet? It's extraordinary. We found this amazing caterer, and everything is just..." "Who's the caterer?" Priya asked, her tone suggesting she was ready to judge and find fault. "Oh, a lovely woman named Kamala. She runs Dadi's Kitchen. Have you heard of it? Quite popular in the area now." I saw the exact moment Rahul heard my name. His head snapped up, his eyes searching the room frantically until they landed on me. Our gazes locked across the crowded hall. I saw shock flash across his face, followed by a complicated mix of emotions I couldn't quite parse: shame, longing, regret, hope. I simply nodded at him, a small acknowledgement, then turned back to oversee my team as they set out fresh dishes. That's my mother," I heard him say to Mrs. Kapoor, his voice carrying across the space. "Your mother. Oh, how wonderful. You must be so proud. She's absolutely Priya. Are you all right?" I glanced over to see Priya had gone pale, her mouth slightly open in shock. Your mother did all this?" she asked weakly. Mrs. Kapoor, oblivious to the undercurrents, gushed on. "Oh yes, she's been the talk of the community. Such delicious food, such reasonable prices, and always so professional. I've already booked her for 2 more events. My friends are fighting over her contact information." I watched as Priya's carefully constructed composure cracked. She'd dismissed me as a burden, an outdated relic with no value beyond household drudgery. And here I was, running a successful business, respected and sought after, thriving without them. Throughout the evening, I maintained my professional demeanor. I didn't approach them, didn't seek them out. I had work to do, a reputation to maintain, but I was aware of them watching Mirahol, hovering near the food tables as if hoping I'd come over. Priya, sitting rigidly in a corner, barely touching her plate, that near the end of the evening, as we were beginning to pack up. Rahul finally approached. "Mom," he said softly. I turned to face him, wiping my hands on a towel. "Rahul, can we talk?" I looked at him, really looked at him. This was my son, my child, but he was also the man who'd watched silently as I was humiliated in my own home. Both truths could exist simultaneously. "I'm working right now," I said calmly. "But you have my number. You've always had my number. I've called so many times." "I know." I listened to every message. I paused. I wasn't ready before. Perhaps I am now, but not here, not like this. "Tomorrow, please," I considered. "Okay, tomorrow. There's a cafe near the market, Caf Sunshine. Do you know it?" He nodded eagerly. "Yes." "What time?" 3 o'clock. "I'll be there. I promise." "Mom, tomorrow, Rahul." I gave him a small smile, not warm, but not cold either. "We'll talk tomorrow." He looked like he wanted to say more, but he just nodded and stepped back as my team and I finished packing up. Mrs. Kapoor pressed an envelope into my hands. "Exceptional work, Kamala. Truly exceptional. I've added a bonus. You've earned it." I thanked her graciously and loaded the last of our equipment into the van I'd rented. As I took one final look around the community hall before leaving, I caught sight of Rahul and Priya through the window. They were arguing, Priya gesturing sharply. Rahul's head bowed. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the body language. Whatever life they'd built without me wasn't going as planned. The drive back to Mira's house was quiet. I was emotionally drained but satisfied. The event had been a success professionally and personally. "How did it go?" Mira asked when I arrived. "He was there, Rahul, and I'm meeting him tomorrow to talk." I sank into a chair. "I don't know what I'm going to say." "You'll know when the time comes." Mira squeezed my shoulder. "You're not the same woman who left that house, Kamala. Remember that." She was right. I wasn't. The next day, I arrived at Caf Sunshine 15 minutes early. I ordered a chai and sat at a corner table, my hands folded calmly in my lap despite the nervous flutter in my stomach. Rahul arrived exactly at 3. He looked like he hadn't slept. He ordered a coffee and sat across from me, his hands wrapping around the cup as if seeking warmth. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "I'm sorry," he finally said, his voice cracking. "Mom, I'm so sorry." I waited. Sorry was a word. I needed more than a word. "I was blind," he continued. "No, I was a coward. I saw what was happening, and I told myself it wasn't that bad, that you were overreacting, that if I just kept the peace everything would be fine." He looked up at me, tears in his eyes. "But it wasn't fine. I let my wife treat you like a servant. I let her push you out of your own home. I chose her comfort over your dignity, and I will never forgive myself for that." "Why?" I asked simply. "Why did you let it happen?" He struggled to answer. "I don't know. I think I was scared. Scared of conflict. Scared of standing up to Priya. Scared of being seen as a mama's boy or a bad husband. I thought if I could just make her happy, everything would work out. But I was wrong. I was so wrong." "What changed?" I asked. "What made you realize you were wrong?" He laughed bitterly. "Everything fell apart. After you left, Priya's true colors really came out. Without you there to direct her, frustrations she turned on me. Nothing I did was good enough. I was working too much, not making enough money, not ambitious enough. She was constantly comparing me to her friends' husbands, criticizing everything I did." He took a shaky breath. "She spent money like crazy, designer clothes, expensive restaurants, a new car. I tried to talk to her about budgeting, but she'd just say I was being cheap. We maxed out 2 credit cards. I had to take a loan from my company." I listened silently, feeling a complex mix of emotions. I wasn't glad he was suffering, but I wasn't surprised either. "And the house," he continued, "without you there to maintain it, to cook, to manage things, it fell into chaos. Priya refused to do any of it, said she was too busy with work, but she wasn't even working that much anymore. She'd quit her job because she said it was beneath her. We started eating takeout every day. The house was a mess. Everything felt cold and empty." "The house was always cold," I said quietly. "You just didn't notice because I was there." trying to warm it with my presence. He flinched. You're right. You're absolutely right. Is that why you came to find me? I asked. Because your house is a mess, and you need a maid again. No. He looked stricken. No, Mom, that's not. I came because I miss you, because I realized what I lost. You were the heart of that house, the heart of our family, and without you, nothing works. Nothing feels right. And Priya, does she feel the same? His jaw tightened. Priya is angry that you were a success. When she saw you at the event last night, looking so confident and successful, she lost it. She said awful things, that you were showing off, that you were trying to make her look bad, that you were being petty. I was working, I said calmly, building my life. That had nothing to do with her. I know. I told her that. I told her that you had every right to build a life without us, after how we treated you. We fought all night. She's been in a foul mood ever since. I sipped my chai, processing everything. So your marriage is falling apart. Yes, he admitted. Maybe it was never as strong as I thought. Maybe I was so caught up in having a beautiful, successful wife that I didn't see who she really was. Or maybe she changed. I don't know anymore. And now you want your mother back. I want you to know that I love you, that I'm sorry, that if I could go back and change everything, I would. He reached across the table, his hand hovering near mine but not touching. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to come back. I just needed you to know that I know I was wrong, that I failed you as a son, and that I'm sorry. I looked at his hand, so close to mine, part of me, the mother part that had held that hand when he learned to walk, that had bandaged his scraped knees, that had packed his school lunches, for years wanted to take it, to comfort him, to make everything okay. But I wasn't just a mother. I was also a woman who'd been hurt deeply, who'd had to rebuild herself from nothing, who'd learned that love without respect is not enough. Thank you for apologizing, I said finally. It means something. Not everything, but something. Can you forgive me? Eventually, perhaps, but not today. Today, I'm still healing from what you allowed to happen to me. He nodded, tears spilling down his cheeks. That's fair. That's more than fair. I need you to understand something, Rahul. I didn't leave just because of Priya. I left because of you. She was cruel, yes, but you were my son. You were supposed to protect me, defend me, value me, and you didn't. You chose her over me again and again, and that hurt more than anything she did. I know. His voice was barely a whisper. I raised you better than that. Your father and I taught you to respect your elders, to honor family, to stand up for what's right, and when it mattered most, you forgot all of it. I did. You're right. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside the cafe window, life went on, people shopping, children playing, the world turning. What do you want from me, Rahul? I asked finally. Really? What are you hoping for? I want... He struggled with the words. I want a chance to be your son again, to earn back your trust, to show you that I can be the man you raised me to be. And he sighed. I honestly don't know what's going to happen with our marriage. I've told her she needs to apologize to you, truly, apologize, but she refuses. She says you're the one who walked out, so you're the one who should apologize. We're at an impasse. She wants me to apologize. I had to laugh at the absurdity. For what? For refusing to be treated like a servant, for having I know, it's ridiculous. I've told her that, but she won't hear it. He rubbed his face, tiredly. I think we might be headed for divorce. I felt a pang of sadness at that, not for Priya, but for my son, for the failure of his marriage, for the pain he was going through. Despite everything, he was still my child. I'm sorry you're going through this, I said, and I meant it. Are you? He looked at me searchingly. I thought you might be happy about it. I'm not happy you're suffering, Rahul. I never wanted that. I just wanted to be treated with dignity. I met his eyes, but I also won't pretend that I'm sad to see that the life you've built by excluding me isn't working out. There's a lesson there, whether you choose to learn it or not. He nodded slowly. The lesson is that you can't build a happy home on someone else's unhappiness. That real love means standing up for the people who matter, even when it's uncomfortable. That a marriage should add to your life, not require you to abandon your values. Those are good lessons, I said softly. I learned them too late. Maybe not too late. Just late. We talked for another hour. It wasn't easy. There were painful moments, difficult truths, old wounds reopened. But it was honest, more honest than we'd been with each other in years. When we finally parted, I gave him a brief hug. It wasn't the warm embrace I'd once given freely, but it was a start. Can I see you again? He asked. Yes, but slowly, Rahul. We have to rebuild trust. and that takes time. I understand. Thank you, Mom, for even giving me this chance. I watched him walk away, his shoulders slightly hunched, and I felt a complicated mix of love, hurt, hope, and caution. Mira was right. I wasn't the same woman who'd left that house. I was stronger now, more certain of my worth, and I wouldn't give that up, not even for my son. As I walked home, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Mrs. Kapoor. Kamala dear, I have 3 friends who want to book you for their events. You were the hit of last night. Can we schedule a call? I smiled and typed back a response. My business was growing, my life was moving forward, and I was doing it all on my own terms. 2 weeks after my conversation with Rahul, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Hello, Auntie, it's Priya. I almost hung up. My finger hovered over the red button, but curiosity stopped me. Priya, I said neutrally. I was hoping we could meet, to talk. Just the 2 of us. Her voice was different, less confident, slightly strained. Why? Because ... She paused. Because things have gotten complicated, and I think we need to clear the air. Complicated, I repeated. That's an interesting word choice. Please, Auntie, one conversation. That's all I'm asking. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We arranged to meet at the same cafe where I'd met Rahul. She arrived 10 minutes late, looking nothing like the polished woman who'd entered my house 2 years ago. Her clothes were still expensive, but they seemed carelessly thrown on. Her hair needed styling. There was a brittleness to her that hadn't been there before. Thank you for meeting me, she said, sliding into the chair across from me. I said nothing, just waited. She fidgeted with her coffee cup. I'll get straight to the point. Rahul wants me to apologize to you. Does he? Yes. He says unless I apologize and you come back home, he's considering divorce. I raised an eyebrow. So this is about saving your marriage, not about any genuine remorse. She faltered. I want to save my marriage, yes, but also, I've realized that things got out of hand. Out of hand, I repeated. Is that what you call it? Not abuse, not systematic humiliation, not kicking someone out of their own home. I never kicked you out. You left on your own. After you threw away my belongings, invaded my privacy, treated me like a servant, and told my son that I needed to be put in a senior home. That's not leaving, that's being driven out. She had the grace to look down at her hands. I may have been too harsh sometimes. Sometimes, my voice was calm, but there was steel in it. Priya, you made me feel worthless in my own home. Every single day. You ordered me around, dismissed me, disrespected me, and convinced my son that I was the problem. That wasn't harshness. That was cruelty. I was just trying to establish boundaries, she said defensively. You were always there, always hovering, always what? Cooking, cleaning, maintaining the home that I built, the home that you took over as if it were yours. It is Rahul's home now. It's my home, I said firmly. Legally, it's still in my name. I never transferred the deed. So, actually, you've been living in my house, eating food bought with my pension contribution, and treating me like I was the guest. Her face paled. What, did you think Rahul owned the house? He never did. I built it. I paid for it, and I kept it in my name. I'd planned to transfer it to him eventually, but I never got around to it. I smiled slightly. Lucky for me, she was speechless, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. But that's not why I came here, I continued. I didn't come to gloat about property ownership. What did you want to say to me? She struggled to regain her composure. I wanted to say that perhaps I was too controlling, and that maybe we could start over. You could come back home, and we could establish better boundaries. And no, I won't come back. That house stopped being my home the moment you made it clear I wasn't welcome there. And I've built a new life, now a good life, a life where I'm respected and valued. Why would I give that up? But you're Rahul's mother. Don't you want to be part of his life? I am part of his life. We're rebuilding our relationship slowly. But that doesn't mean I need to live under the same roof as someone who treated me with contempt. Her expression hardened. So, that's it. You're going to let our marriage fall apart because you're too proud to forgive. Your marriage is falling apart because it was built on disrespect and selfishness. That has nothing to do with me. We were fine before you left. No, you weren't. You just had someone to blame all your problems on. Without me there to treat badly, you turned on my son. That's not a strong marriage. That's a house of cards. She stood up abruptly. I see. So you're not interested in reconciliation. You're just enjoying watching us suffer. I stood as well, meeting her eyes calmly. I'm not enjoying anyone's suffering, Priya, but I'm also not sacrificing my peace and dignity to save a marriage that you've already damaged beyond my ability to repair. That's between you and Rahul. Fine. Her voice was bitter. But don't expect Rahul to choose you over me. We're married. You're just his mother. Just his mother, I repeated softly. The person who gave him life, raised him, sacrificed everything for him. Yes, I'm just that. She grabbed her purse and turned to leave, then paused. You know what your problem is, Auntie. You can't accept that things change, that sons grow up and have their own lives. You wanted to keep controlling Rahul, and when you couldn't, you left in a dramatic huff. I looked at her and suddenly, I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt pity. Priya, I said quietly, I never tried to control my son. I just wanted to be treated like a human being in my own home. The fact that you see those as the same thing tells me everything I need to know about you. I walked past her and out of the cafe, leaving her standing there. That evening, Rahul called me. Mom, Priya said you refused to even consider coming back. That's correct. Buff. Why? If she apologizes, if we make changes, Rahul, stop. Listen to me carefully. I am not coming back to that house. Not now, not ever. It's not my home anymore. But it is your home. It's your house. Your name is on the deed. The building is mine. Yes, but a home is more than walls and a roof. It's where you feel safe, loved, valued. I didn't feel any of those things in that house. I felt like an unwanted burden. We can change that. No, you can't. Because the damage is done. Your wife showed me exactly how she feels about me, and people don't change that fundamentally. I paused. But more importantly, I don't want to come back. I have a good life now, Rahul. A life I built myself. Why would I give that up? Because I'm your son. Because we're family. We are family. But that doesn't mean I have to live with you. We can have a relationship. We are having a relationship, but on my terms now, not yours. Not Priya's. There was a long silence on the other end. I don't know what to do, he finally said, his voice breaking. Priya's threatening to leave if you don't come back and fix things, but I don't want to lose you either. Oh, beta, I said gently. You can't put that choice on me. This is your marriage, your life. You have to decide what's right for you. But what do you think I should do? I think, I said slowly, choosing my words carefully, that you should think about what kind of person you want to be. What kind of man? What kind of husband? What kind of son? And then, be that person, regardless of who stays or leaves. That's not really advice. It's the only advice I have. You're a grown man, Rahul. I can't make your decisions for you anymore. I can only tell you this. I love you. I always will. But I will not sacrifice my dignity and peace to make your life easier. Those days are over. He was crying now. I could hear it in his breathing. I'm sorry, Mom, for all of it. I'm so sorry. I know you are. And we'll work through it, slowly. But you need to understand that some things can't be fixed by going back to how they were. Sometimes, you can only move forward into something new. After we hung up, I sat on Mira's balcony, looking out at the stars. My phone buzzed with a text from Arjun, Mira's nephew Dottie. Great news. A food magazine wants to feature you in their Inspiring Entrepreneurs section. Are you free for an interview next week? I smiled and typed back, yes, send me the details. Life was moving forward. The universe was opening doors I'd never even known existed. A week later, I was sitting for the magazine interview in my commercial kitchen. The journalist, a young woman named Anjali, was taking photos and asking questions about my business journey. So, you started this at 62, after leaving your home? She asked. Yes, that must have been terrifying. It was, I admitted, but it was also liberating. Sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what you're really capable of. Your business has grown remarkably fast. What's your secret? I thought about it. No secret, just good food, honest work, and so. When you value yourself, others value you too. The article came out 2 weeks later, with a beautiful photo of me in my kitchen, surrounded by my dishes. The headline read, From Homemaker to Business Owner, 1. Woman's Journey to Independence at 62. It went viral locally. My phone exploded with booking requests, interview requests, even a request from a cooking show to appear as a guest chef. And then, on a Tuesday morning, I received a call from my bank. Mrs. Sharma, this is regarding the property at 47 Rajpar Road, the house registered in your name. My heart sank. Yes. we've received a request from your son to take a loan against the property. Since you're the owner, we need your authorization. Are you aware of this request? No, I'm not. I see. We'll inform him that he needs to discuss this with you directly. Thank you, Mrs. Sharma. I hung up and immediately called Rahul. You're trying to take a loan against my house. Mom, I can explain. Explain what? That you're trying to use my property as collateral without even telling me. We're in financial trouble. Priya's spending got out of control, and I have credit card debt. And then you thought you'd just mortgage my house without asking. It's not like that. I was going to tell you when Rahul, before or after the bank seized my property when you couldn't make the payments. I wouldn't let that happen. You don't get to make that decision. My voice was hard now. That house is mine. I built it, I own it, and you don't get to gamble it away to fix your financial mess. What am I supposed to do, then? We're drowning in debt. That's your problem to solve. Sell Priya's car, cut up the credit cards, live within your means. But you don't get to drag me down with you. There was a bitter silence. I thought you loved me, he finally said. I do love you. That's why I'm saying no. Because giving you this loan would be enabling your mistakes, not helping you. You need to face the consequences of your choices and learn from them. So, that's it. You're just going to let us fall apart. You're already falling apart. Beta, you've been falling apart since the day you put your wife's demands above your own judgment. This isn't about me. This is about you learning to be a man who stands on his own 2 feet. I hung up, my hands shaking. That night, Mira found me crying in the kitchen. What happened? I told her everything. You did the right thing, she said firmly. Giving him that loan would have been the biggest mistake. I know, but it hurts. He's my son, and I hate watching him struggle. He's not struggling because you won't help. He's struggling because he made bad choices and now has to face them. That's called growing up, even if it's happening late. She was right, as always. A month later, I heard through a mutual friend that Priya had moved out. The divorce proceedings had begun. And Rahul, he was staying in that big, empty house, my house, working long hours to pay off his debts, learning to cook for himself, learning to clean, learning all the things he'd taken for granted when I did them. I didn't gloat. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt sad that it had come to this, and grateful that I'd found the strength to save myself instead of drowning trying to save them. But I also knew that this was necessary for both of us. Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting people face the consequences of their choices. 6 months after Priya moved out, Rahul came to see me at my new place. Yes, my new place. I'd saved enough from my catering business to put a down payment on a small 2-bedroom apartment. It was modest, but it was mine, completely wholly mine. Mira had been so proud when I told her. You're leaving me, she'd joked. Never. Just moving 2 streets over. You're stuck with me for life. The apartment was on the 3rd floor of a newer building, with a balcony that overlooked a small park. I'd furnished it simply but comfortably: a soft sofa, a proper dining table, a kitchen equipped with all my tools. On the walls, I'd hung photos of my parents, my late husband, and yes, even some of Rahul as a child. Because despite everything, he was still my son, still part of my story. He knocked on my door on a Saturday afternoon, looking nervous. Mom, can I come in? Of course. He entered slowly, taking in the space. It's nice, really nice. Thank you. Yes, please. We sat in my small living room with our chai, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. I've been thinking a lot, he finally said, about everything, about who I was and who I want to be, and I realize I became someone I don't respect. I let fear make me weak. I let a toxic relationship turn me into someone who could watch his own mother suffer and do nothing. He looked at me with clear eyes. I was a coward. Mom, a selfish coward. Yes, I said simply. You were. He flinched but nodded. I deserved that. But people can change, Rahul, if they truly want to. I'm trying. God, I'm trying. He ran his hand through his hair. The divorce is almost final. I've paid off most of the debt side. Took a second job on weekends. I'm learning to cook, to clean, to manage a household. I'm learning all the things you did for years that I never appreciated. Those skills will serve you well. It's humbling, he admitted, coming home to an empty house, having to do everything myself. I keep thinking about how I'd hear you moving around in the mornings, how there was always food ready, how the house always felt cared for, and I just took it all for granted. Most people do, until they have to do it themselves. I want to make things right between us, he said earnestly. I know I can't undo the past, but I want a future where we have a relationship, a real one, based on mutual respect. I sipped my tea, considering, what does that look like to you? Weekly dinners, maybe, where we actually talk, where I ask about your business and your life, where I treat you like the accomplished, independent woman you are, not just my mother. That sounds nice, I said softly, and I want to say, he paused, gathering courage, I want you to know that I'm proud of you, what you've built, how you survived, how you didn't let what we did to you break you. You're the strongest person I know. Tears pricked my eyes, but I smiled. Thank you, but that means more than you know. Can you forgive me? Eventually, I think I already have. Mostly. Forgiveness is a process, not a moment. And we're in process. He smiled, the real, genuine smile I hadn't seen in years. I'll take that. We talked for hours that afternoon. Really talked, like we hadn't in years. He told me about his job, his struggles, his hopes. I told him about my business, my new friends, my plans to maybe write a cookbook someday. His eyes lit up. Mom, that would be amazing. Your recipes deserve to be preserved. You think so? I know so. Remember your coconut laddu and that dal makhani that everyone always asked for. Those recipes should be shared with the world. It felt good, having this conversation. Natural, like we were finding our way back to each other. Not as mother and dependent son, but as two adults who cared about each other. Before he left, he hesitated at the door. Mom, there's something I need to tell you. What is it? The house, your house on Rajpur Road. I know it's yours. And I know I have no right to ask anything about it. But I wanted you to know, I'm planning to move out. Find a smaller apartment I can actually afford. I'll keep paying the property taxes and maintenance until you decide what you want to do with it. But I can't live there anymore. It has too many bad memories. What kind of memories? Of who I was, of what I let happen. Every room reminds me of how I failed you. He met my eyes. I need a fresh start too, I think. I nodded slowly. I understand. And Rahul, I appreciate you telling me. What will you do with the house? I don't know yet. Maybe rent it out. Maybe sell it. Maybe eventually give it to you, once you've truly become the man you want to be. I smiled, but that's a decision for another day. He hugged me before he left, a real hug, the kind we hadn't shared in years. And when he pulled away, both of us had tears in our eyes. I love you, Mom. I love you too, Beta. Always have, always will. 3 months later, on a bright Sunday morning, I was preparing for what would become one of the most meaningful days of my new life. My catering business had grown so much that I'd hired 5 full-time staff members and was considering opening a small restaurant. The cookbook was in progress. June was helping me format it, and a small local publisher had expressed interest. But today wasn't about business. Today was about family. Rahul had asked if he could bring someone to meet me, a woman he'd been seeing for a few months, a divorce lawyer, ironically, whom he'd met during his own divorce proceedings. Her name is Anjali, he'd said over the phone. She's different from, well, she's different, kind, grounded. She actually asked if she could meet you before things got serious between us. She said any man who doesn't have a good relationship with his mother is a red flag. I'd laughed at that. Smart woman. Now, as I set out snacks in my apartment and made sure everything was welcoming, I felt surprisingly nervous. This was a new chapter, and I wanted to approach it with wisdom. The knock came right on time. Rahul stood there with a woman about his age, dressed simply in jeans and she had an open, intelligent face and warm eyes. Mom, this is Anjali. This is my mother, Kamala. Anjali folded her hands in a namaste. It's such an honor to meet you. Auntie, Rahul has told me so much about you, about your business, your strength, everything you've overcome. Has he told you about his part in what I overcame? I asked, watching her carefully. She didn't flinch. He has. He's been very honest about his mistakes. That's actually one of the things I respect about him, his willingness to acknowledge where he went wrong and work to be better. Come in, both of you. Let's talk. Over tea and snacks, I watched them together, the way Anjali listened when Rahul spoke but also challenged him when she disagreed, the way Rahul looked at her with respect, not just infatuation, the way they seemed like equals, partners, not one person dominating the other. Rahul tells me you're writing a cookbook, Anjali said. I'd love to hear about it. I found myself opening up, talking about my recipes, my process, my dreams for the book. She asked thoughtful questions, genuinely interested. You know, she said, My mother passed away when I was young. My father raised me and my sister alone. He learned to cook, to manage a household, to be both parents. Watching him taught me that there's no such thing as women's work or men's work. There's just life. And everyone should know how to handle it. Your father sounds like a wise man. He is. He'd love you. Actually, he's always saying that people who rebuild their lives after setbacks have the most interesting stories. As the afternoon went on, I found myself genuinely liking this woman. She was accomplished but not arrogant, confident but not controlling. She treated Rahul as an equal, and she treated me with respect, not the false politeness Priya had shown, but genuine respect. At one point, while Rahul was in the bathroom, Anjali leaned toward me. "Auntie, I want you to know, Rahul and I become serious. I would never expect or want to come between you two. I believe family relationships should be nurtured, not competed with. And I would hope that you and I could build our own relationship, separate from Rahul, woman to woman." I felt something loosen in my chest, a tension I hadn't even realized I was holding. "Thank you for saying that, Beta. That means more than you know." When they were leaving, Anjali hugged me. "I hope we can do this again soon. And if you ever need help with the cookbook editing, proofreading, anything, I'd love to help. I'm a bit of a food enthusiast myself. I'd like that." After they left, I stood on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone buzzed with a message from Mira. "Dinner at my place tomorrow. I'm making your favorite." I smiled and typed back, "Wouldn't miss it." Another message, this time from Mrs. Kapoor. "Kamala, my daughter is getting married next month. We want Dadi's Kitchen to handle all the catering. Can we discuss?" Then one from Arjun Dadi. "The publisher wants to meet you next week. They're very excited about the cookbook." And finally, one from Rahul. "Thank you for today, Mom. Anjali really liked you." So did I. I looked around at my small but beautiful apartment, at the life I'd built from nothing, at the future that stretched before me, full of possibility, dignity, and peace. A year later, I stood in the same community hall where Mrs. Kapoor had hired me for that fateful charity function, but this time, I wasn't the caterer. I was the guest of honor. The local Women's Business Association was giving me an award for entrepreneurial spirit and community impact. My little catering business had grown into a full restaurant kitchen that employed 15 people, and had become a neighborhood institution. That the cookbook had been published and was selling well, with all the profits going to a charity that helped widows start their own businesses. As I stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd, I saw so many faces that meant something to me. Mira, beaming with pride, Arjun and his family, Mrs. Kapoor, and many of my regular clients, the young women I'd hired and mentored, the community members who'd supported my journey. And in the back, standing quietly but with unmistakable pride on his face, Rahul. Next to him, Anj, who'd become a dear friend in her own right. "Thank you all for this honor," I began, my voice steady and strong. "A little over a year ago, I walked out of my house with nothing but 2 suitcases and a broken heart. I was 62 years old, and I thought my life was over." I paused, letting my gaze sweep across the room. But I was wrong. My life wasn't over, it was just beginning, because sometimes, the worst thing that happens to you becomes the doorway to the best thing that could happen. I told them my story, not all of it, but enough, about losing my sense of self, about being treated as less than I was, about finding the courage to walk away. For years, I thought my value came from what I could do for others. I was someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's maid, but I was never just Kamala, woman with dreams, skills, and worth of her own. When I lost everything, I had to ask myself, who am I without all those roles? And the answer surprised me. I was a woman who could cook incredible food, a woman who could build a business, a woman who could start over at 62 and thrive, a woman who deserved respect, not because of who I served, but because of who I was. I saw some women in the audience nodding, tears in their eyes. They understood. They'd been there too, in different ways. "I'm not telling you this story to tell you to leave your families," I continued. "I'm telling you this story to remind you that your worth is inherent. You don't have to earn love through service. You don't have to accept disrespect to keep the peace. You don't have to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. And if you ever find yourself feeling invisible in your own life, remember, it's never too late to start again. It's never too late to choose yourself. It's never too late to build something beautiful from the ashes." The applause was thunderous. Women stood up, clapping, some crying, some smiling. I saw Mira wiping her eyes, Rahul nodding with tears on his cheeks. After the ceremony, people lined up to talk to me, to share their own stories, to ask for advice. I listened to each one, offered what wisdom I could, and felt grateful for every experience, even the painful ones that had brought me here. When the crowd finally thinned, Rahul approached. "That was beautiful. Mom, I'm so proud of you." "Thank you." "Beta, I need to say something." He took a deep breath. "I've been talking to a therapist about everything, about how I treated you, why I let it happen, how to be better, and I've realized something important." "What's that?" "You didn't just rebuild your own life, you saved mine too." I looked at him questioningly. "If you hadn't left, I would have kept living in denial. I would have kept being that weak, cowardly person who couldn't stand up for what was right. I would have kept thinking that peace at any cost was acceptable." He shook his head. "By walking away, you showed me what strength really looks like. You showed me that love without respect is meaningless. You taught me how to be a better man by refusing to accept me being a worse one." "Oh, Rahul." My voice was thick with emotion. "I know I can never undo what happened, but I want you to know that every day, I try to be the son you deserved to have, the son Dad would have been proud of. And when I fall short, I think of you walking out that door in the rain, and I remember what real courage looks like." I hugged him then, tight and long. "You're becoming that man, Beta. Every day, you're becoming him." Anjali joined us, and the three of us stood together, a new kind of family, built on respect and honesty rather than obligation and guilt. That evening, back in my apartment, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea, watching the stars emerge. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Auntie, this is Priya. I heard about your award. Congratulations, you've done well for yourself." I stared at the message for a long moment. There was no apology, no real acknowledgement of what she'd done, just a brief, grudging admission that I'd succeeded. I could have ignored it. I could have sent back something cutting, but I thought about the woman I'd become, the woman who didn't need revenge or validation from people who'd hurt her. I typed back, "Thank you. I wish you well in your life." And I meant it, not because she deserved my good wishes, but because I deserved to be free of bitterness. I deleted her number and looked back up at the stars. The truth was, I didn't think about Priya much anymore. She was a chapter in my past. A difficult teacher who'd inadvertently shown me my own strength, but she wasn't part of my present or my future. My present was this: a successful business that fed my community and employed people who needed work, friendships built on mutual respect and genuine affection, a relationship with my son that was healing, growing stronger every day, a cookbook that would preserve my mother's recipes and my own for future generations, a small apartment that was wholly, completely mine, and my future. It stretched before me, full of possibilities I'd never imagined when I was trapped in that big house, feeling small and invisible. I was 64 years old. I was an entrepreneur, a mentor, an author, an award winner. I was a mother, yes, but also so much more than that. I was Kamala, just Kamala, and that was more than enough. The restaurant was packed, as it always was on Sunday afternoons. Dadi's Kitchen had become something of a local institution, a place where people came not just for the food, but for the warmth, the community, the feeling of being truly welcomed. I moved through the dining room, greeting regulars, welcoming newcomers, checking that everything was perfect. At 77, I'd finally hired a manager to handle the day-to-day operations, but I still came in most days. This was my joy, my purpose, my legacy. "Dottie," a little voice called out. "Dottie." I turned to see a 4-year-old girl running toward me, her pigtails bouncing. Behind her, Rahul and Anjali followed, Anjali very pregnant with their second child. "Careful, Mira," Rahul called. They'd named their daughter after my friend, which had made us both cry. Little Mira crashed into my legs, hugging me tight. "Dottie, can I help in the kitchen today? Please." "We'll see," I said, picking her up despite my aging bones protesting. "First, lunch with Nana and Nani." Yes, Nani, grandmother. That's what little Mira called me, and hearing it never got old. We settled at our usual table, and my staff, who knew us well, brought out our favorites without us having to order. "How are you feeling, Beta?" I asked Anjali, noting how she rubbed her belly. "Big, tired, ready to not be pregnant anymore." She laughed. "But good, the baby's healthy, and that's what matters." "A boy this time," Rahul said, smiling. "We're going to name him Vikram, after Dad." My heart swelled. He would have loved that. After lunch, Rahul helped Mira put on a tiny apron, and I let her help me make ladoos. which mostly meant she ate more than she made. Her laughter filled the kitchen, mixing with the sounds of cooking, conversation, and life. This was what I'd built, not just a restaurant, but a legacy, not just financial independence, but genuine happiness, not just survival, but thriving. Later, after they'd left and the restaurant had closed for the evening, I sat in my office going over the next day's orders. On the wall hung several frames: my business license, the award from the Women's Association, the cover of my published cookbook, and a photo from little Mira's first birthday, all of us together. Laughing. There was also a frame I'd added recently, a picture of the old house on Rajpire Road. I'd sold it last year. Rahul didn't want it, too many painful memories. I'd thought about keeping it, but I realized I didn't need it anymore. That house represented a past I'd moved beyond, with the money from the sale. I'd bought the building where my restaurant operated, ensuring no landlord could ever force me out. I'd also set up a trust fund for Mira and her baby brother, and donated a substantial amount to the widow's charity. The rest I kept as security, because I'd learned the hard way that every woman needs her own financial independence. My phone rang. It was Rahul. Mom, I forgot to tell you. Anjali and I have been talking, and we want to ask you something. What is it? When the baby comes, we're going to need help. Not a maid. We're managing fine with household work, but we were wondering if you'd consider staying with us for a few weeks after the birth, just to be there, to be a grandmother to both kids, to be family. I felt tears prick my eyes. Of course, Beta, I'd love that. And Mom, you'll have your own space, your own room that no one will touch, your own privacy and autonomy. This isn't like before. You're not help, you're our family, and you'd be coming as an honored guest and beloved grandmother. Is that okay? More than okay. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet office, letting the tears fall. This was redemption, not just for Rahul but for all of us. We'd all grown, changed, learned. The pain of the past had taught us how to build a better future. I once thought losing my home was the end of my life, but sometimes being pushed out is how you find the door to your real freedom. I wasn't just a maid, a servant, a burden to be tolerated. I was the foundation, and without me, their house had fallen apart. But in falling apart, it had taught my son what truly mattered. Now we were building something new together. Not a house where I was invisible, but a family where I was valued. Not a relationship based on obligation, but one based on respect and genuine love. I looked around my office, at my restaurant beyond, at the life I'd created. I thought about my little granddaughter calling my name, about the new grandson who would soon join our family, about Sunday dinners and holidays and ordinary moments filled with laughter. I thought about the woman I'd been 3 years ago, broken, invisible, believing her life was over at 62. And I thought about the woman I was now 75 years old and just getting started. I smiled, stood up, and turned off the lights in my office. Tomorrow would be another busy day at the restaurant. Mira would probably call wanting to go shopping together. Rahul would stop by for lunch with updates about the baby's room. Life would go on, full and rich and beautiful. And I would be there, living it on my own terms, valued and respected and free. Because I'd learned the most important lesson of all. You can't build a happy home on someone else's unhappiness, but you can always, always build a new home for yourself, no matter your age, no matter what you've lost. Sometimes the greatest gift life gives you is the push you need to finally save yourself. And once you do, the whole world opens up.